Blog Talk Radio. Hello, friends, wherever you are tuning in, whichever part of the world. I appreciate your friendship and your fellowship, and thank you for. I've got a pretty decent show lined up for you today. I'm going to be talking about the Apocalypse of Baruch, which is a text not a lot of people have heard about. It's from the pseudepigraphal collection, and it's attributed to Baruch ben Neriah from 6th century BC, but these texts are actually dated back to 1st, 2nd century CE, and they pertain to the fall of Jerusalem and the exile of the people and their captivity in Babylon, and that's also when they picked up and assimilated with the pagan traditions, and many of them also took foreign wives. And so when they were brought back, brought back after the 70 years of exile, and the Lord said that he would bring his people back to Jerusalem and have the temple rebuilt, which he did. And this also showed his majesty and his glory and his omnipotence, his power over the regents, the viceroys, the various kings of the differing nations of the world. And even though these other nations worship pagan gods, when the Father chooses to reveal himself to whoever it is he chooses to reveal himself to, there's no denying his authority. And so they quickly realize that there is really only one creator of the universe that holds all authority. And that the demigods, the fallen angels, even though they have capacity to mystify humanity in what seems supernatural and magical ways, and they have heavenly knowledge, astrology, the use of divination, the way that the heavens affect people, and also their entrance into this world and into this incarnation. All those various things they utilized for evil, and they showed things like that to humanity in order to control the priesthood and also to manipulate the people, because they knew when certain signs and wonders were going to happen in the heaven, and that these signs and wonders would be mystifying to all those that were going to be witness to them, and so they could relay the messages to their hybrid bloodline priesthoods that were then in control of the people and demanding a blood sacrifice and all these different kind of abominable things that they then later instituted. But anyways, that's just a little bit more history. And it speaks about that in this particular text. And I'm not going to cover all of it. I do want to say hello to everybody in the chat room. And I pray that the Lord keep the trolls out and that they choose not to target us and that we don't have to deal with them today. That would be nice. Because this is a very interesting text. And I think you should spend some time looking into these various pseudepigraphal texts, especially all of these differing apocalypses, because there's many apocalyptic texts ascribed to various prophets that are, part of the extra biblical books, and so they're not well read or well known about, but they're relevant for our time and where we find ourselves now as the last generation, because we are that apocalyptic generation. We're the ones that all these things are being written for. And so this text is also interesting in that we find ourselves seemingly at the culmination of what is the destruction of America, because that's what we're all witness to. We are witness to the fall of Rome, the complete annihilation of what was the America that we all once loved and held so beautifully in our hearts and valued, and that whole dream has disappeared and has been desecrated. It's been desecrated, and it's sad. But with the reinstallment, because that's what it was, reinstallment of Barack Obama, who wears a ring which is devoted to Allah. There's no God but Allah, and has worn this ring since the early in what seems to be even his college days at Occidental College, Harvard, and even through his presidency. Interestingly enough, there's been decipherment on the ring, and there's been verification that this, in fact, is what it does say, and you can look that up for yourself. That story is available in public knowledge. But anyways, I'm going to check the chat room, and then we're going to go ahead and get into this text because I've got a lot I would like to bring forward. And I did put a link in the chat room for those that have access that are wanting to follow the text. I'll tell you where we're going to be reading from so you can follow. And again, we're not going to be reading the entirety of the text. I'm going to go to specific passages which are relevant to our time and our generation. And for those that have not heard about, it's called the Book of the Apocalypse of Baruch, the son of Neriah, or Second Baruch. There's actually two of them. There's a Syriac version and a Hebraic version. So, all right. And I've actually already got it broken down and highlighted, so I'm going to go to my copy. And y'all can read along with the link to that particular. We're going to read from verse 4, passage 2 through 7, which is about the heavenly Jerusalem. And then we're going to skip down quite a ways. It says this: Dost you think that this is that city of which I said, on the palms of my hands have I graven you? This building now built in your midst is not that which is revealed with me, that which prepared beforehand here from the time when I took counsel to make paradise, and showed Adam before he sinned. But when he transgressed the commandment, it was removed from him, as also paradise. And after these things I showed it to my servant Abraham by night among the portions of the victims. And again also I showed it to Moses on Mount Sinai, when I showed to the likeness of the tabernacle and all its vessels. And now, behold, it is preserved with me as paradise. Go therefore, do as I command you. And he's speaking of crowned thrones and that place called Heavenly Jerusalem, where we will inherit eternal righteousness and everlasting life with him. Those that are counted among the elect and that follow the ways of righteousness, that honor the commandments and serve the Father and the Son according to the Testament as laid out in the Old and the New, because they are a continuation of each, and should serve as a foundation for the revelation that is contained even within the text that we're looking at here. Even this, these are different varying apocalypses. But notice this one particular passage, that which prepared beforehand here from the time when I took counsel to make paradise. So New Jerusalem has been with the Father since he created paradise and showed Adam before he sinned. And notice that he says that he removed New Jerusalem from Adam as he did paradise. And if you read a different text called the Apocalypse of Paul, or the Vision of Paul, there's a wonderful revelation and passage in there that describes New Jerusalem and how it's centered as a city on the plains of paradise, and how the Arturian lake is the wide gulf between the place of the righteous and the place of the wicked. Interestingly enough, and this is what is termed the third heaven. All right, so we're going to go and notice that it's basically a continuation, and that from Adam to Abraham to Moses, that this is the same God of the fathers, of the patriarchs of Abraham, Isaac, all those. All right, now I want to touch on this too, just to let everybody know. When Jerusalem fell, it was the Father that sent his angels in to destroy and break open the gates of the cities, and they also rent the veil of the temple from the top to the bottom. And these were signs. And it was after these things were done that the armies of the Chaldeans were allowed entrance into the city with no opposition. And so I want to verify this story for you too, to let you know that, when the Father deems a nation and a city ripe for judgment, he sends in his angels to ensure the destruction. And so everything is according to plan. And so we're going to go to this is chapter 6. Actually, this is chapter 7, verse 1. And after these things I heard that angel saying unto those angels who held the lamps, Destroy therefore and overthrow its walls to its foundations, lest the enemy should boast and say, We have overthrown the wall of Zion, and we have burnt the place of the mighty God, and they have seized the place where I had been standing before. Now the angel did as he had commanded them, and when they had broken up the corners of the walls, a voice was heard from the interior of the temple after the wall had fallen, saying, Enter, you enemies, and come, you adversaries, for he who kept the houses has forsaken it. And I, Baruch, departed, and it came to pass after these things that the army of the Chaldees entered and seized the house and all that was around it. And they led the people away captives and slew some of them, and bound Zedekiah the king and sent him to the king of Babylon. Also, I want, for those that don't know, Baruch was the scribe for Jeremiah the prophet, who was called a weeping prophet because he was always in tears knowing that Jerusalem was to fall and that the people would be exiled and led astray, and that he also would have to leave his land, his beloved land, and go into captivity with the people. But Baruch was to be a witness and have a series of visions, which this text is a series of visions and fasts that Baruch received and gave to the people before his death and his departure from this world. All right, so we're going to go to chapter 14, verse 10. And this is an interesting passage in that it talks about us and the breath of life within us. Verse 10. For we have all been made like a breath. For as the breath ascends involuntarily and again dies, so it is with the nature of men, who depart not according to their own will, and know not what will befall them in the end. For the righteous justly hope for the end, and without fear depart from this habitation, because they have with you a store of works, preserved in treasuries. On this account also these without fear leave this world, and trusting with joy the hope to receive the world which you have promised them. But as for us, woe to us who also are now shamefully entreated, and at that time look forward only to evils. But you know accurately what you have done by means of your servants, for we are not able to understand that which is good, as you art our Creator. But again I will speak in your presence, O Lord, my Lord. When of old there was no world. This is interesting as well. This is verse 17. And again, we're in chapter 14. The Apocalypse of Baruch. Verse 17. When of old there was no world with its inhabitants, You did devise and speak with a word, and forthwith the works of creation stood before you. And you did say that you would make for your world man as the administrator of your works, that it might be known that he was by no means made on account of the world, but the world on account of him. And now I see that as for the world which was made on account of us, lo, it abides, but we, on account of whom it was made, depart. And the Lord answered and said unto me, you are rightly astonished regarding the departure of man, but you have not judged well regarding the evils which befall those who sin. And as regards what you have said, that the righteous are carried off and the impious are prospered, and as regards what you have said, man knows not your judgment, on this account hear, and I will speak to you, and hearken, and I will cause you to hear my words. Man would not rightly have understood my judgment unless he had accepted the law, and I had instructed him in understanding. But now, because he transgressed wittingly, yea, just on this ground that he knows about it, he shall be tormented. And as regards what you did say touching the righteous, that on account of them has this world come, so also again shall that which is to come on their account. For this world is to them a strife and a labor with much trouble, and that accordingly which is to come, a crown with great glory. I'm going to stop here for a second. Now, this revelation that is given to Baruch over the series of visions that he received is the Lord verifying that the righteous do receive reward, and that the sinners do not prosper. They may prosper in this world, but in the judgment to come, they will be rewarded accordingly to their actions and to their deeds. And so that's what Baruch was arguing initially, was that the injustice of the world was so that the evil got away with, doing all that they did. And so this is what the Lord is speaking about. But this particular passage is interesting in that it speaks about this world coming into being and being created for the sake of the righteous. And we know that that is because of salvation and eternal life being offered to the descendants of Adam, who are the inheritors of eternal life and salvation. We are those that were the descendants of light, of those that incarnated into flesh, the children of light that are now in body and flesh form. So read this passage real quick again. Verse 7. And as regard what you did say touching the righteous, that on account of them has this world come, so also again shall that which is to come on their account. For this world is to them a strife and a labor with much trouble, and that accordingly which is to come, a crown with great glory. Verse 16. And I answered and said, O Lord, my Lord, lo, the years of this time are few and evil, and who is able in his little time to acquire that which is measureless? Another thing, and this is me commenting here, another thing that you'll find within the pseudepigraphal text is the presence of preexistence and predestination, and the elect, the first will be the last. All these things are also contained within the text. Verse 17. And I'll stop to check the chat room in just about 6 minutes. So if you have any questions, paste them there. And the Lord answered and said unto me, with the Most High account is not taken of time, nor of a few years. For what did it profit Adam that he lived 930 years, and transgressed that which he was commanded? Therefore the multitude of time that he lived did not profit him, but brought death, and cut off the years of those who were born from him. Wherein did Moses suffer loss, in that he lived only 120 years? And inasmuch as he was subject to him who formed him, brought the law to the seed of Jacob, and lighted a lamp for the nation of Israel. And I answered, and I said, he that lighted has taken from the light, and there are but few that have imitated him. But those many whom he has lighted have taken from the darkness of Adam, and have not rejoiced in the light of the lamp. Another, this is me commenting again, another argument that you'll see being put forth by Baruch in this text, and another prophet, Ezra, he also argues the same thing, is that the elect and the righteous are the few, and those that are of the wicked are the many. And so he argues, is that not unjust? And so, you'll see. All right. And he answered, and he said unto me, wherefore at that time he appointed for them a covenant, and said, behold, I have placed before you life and death. He called heaven and earth to witness against them, for he knew that in his time was but short, but that heaven and earth endure always. But after his death they sinned and transgressed, though they knew that they had the law reproving them, and the light in which nothing could err. Also the spheres which testify, and me. So the Lord is talking about how he warned and told Adam, about the transgression, and that he did so anyways. He's talking about the free will that we've been given. He's also going to speak about election. Okay, verse 4. Now regarding everything that is, it is I that judge, but do not you take counsel in your soul regarding these things, nor afflict thyself because of those which have been. For now it is the consummation of time that should be considered, whether of business or of prosperity, or of shame, and not the beginning thereof. Because if a man be prospered in his beginnings, and shamefully entreated in his old age, he forgets all the prosperity that he had. And again, if a man is shamefully entreated in his beginnings, and at his end is prospered, he remembers not again his evil entreatment. And again, hearken, though each one were prospered all the time from that day on which death was decreed against those who transgressed, and in his end was destroyed, in vain would have been everything. So he's speaking about also the lifespans. Even, Adam lived 900 certain years, Moses 120. But what good would any life have been if that they did not attain salvation, and they did not come to remembrance, but were destroyed in the end? All right. This last particular passage, this is from chapter 20, and then we're going to go into some very, very heavy judgment and some heavy revelation into the deeper aspects of this apocalypse of Baruch. And the text it can be somewhat disturbing because of the description of these particular times and how they're strenuous. Therefore, behold, this is talking about why Zion and the temple was destroyed early, and it was to bring forth and to hasten judgment and to hasten the end of days. Therefore, behold, the days come, and the time shall hasten more than the former. And the seasons shall speed on more than those are past, and the years shall pass more quickly than the present years. Therefore have I now taken away Zion, that I may the more speedily visit the world in its season. Now therefore hold fast in your heart everything that I command you, and seal it in the recesses of your mind. And then I will show you the judgment of my might, and my ways which are unsearchable. So, like I said, this particular text is a series of visions. I'm going to check the chat room. Then we're going to go into the visions. Hello, Cookie, and For Fun, and Gray, and No Sun, all the guests that math and remain anonymous, all the numbered guests. Welcome, and thanks for your fellowship. Okay. This is going to be interesting text. Very interesting text. All right. We're going into it. All right. So Baruch fasts for 7 days. And he does this over a series of weeks. It's like the Lord comes to him, gives him a vision, interprets the vision, how it's important for what he's asking, the revelation that he gives him. And then he tells him to fast for 7 more days. And then he comes back again, gives him another vision, describes the vision, explains it, and then he tells him to fast for 7 more days and then comes back. And so I'm not going to read all of the what the visions were. In the revelation of the explanation of the vision, it will touch somewhat upon that. But we don't have time to go into all of those visions. And then, Baruch's prayers to the Lord, because he does fast and pray and incite the Lord to answer him and beseeches him in humbleness to bring him discernment and answer and to help him to understand all these things. And so it's a very beautiful text, and I would read it in its entirety. It's about 50 pages long, I think, as far as a PDF text. All right, we're going to go to chapter 22 and chapter 23. This is going to be about the coming judgment. All right. And we're going to begin with chapter 23, verse 4. Give you a minute to get there. Chapter 23, verse 4. Because when Adam sinned and death was decreed against those who should be born, then the multitude of those who should be born was numbered. And for that number a place was prepared where the living might dwell and the dead might be guarded. Before, therefore, the number aforesaid is fulfilled, the creature will not live again. That's an important passage there for those that think we reincarnate over time and space and through various lifetimes. We incarnate once into the flesh. Let me read that part again. Before, therefore, the number aforesaid is fulfilled, the creature will not live again, for my spirit is the creator of life, and Sheol will receive the dead. And again, it is given to you to hear what things are to come after these times. For truly my redemption has drawn nigh, and is not far distant as aforetime. And we're going into chapter 24. This is on the coming judgment. For behold, the days come, and the book shall be opened, in which are written the sins of all those who have sinned. And again, also the treasuries in which the righteous of all those who have been righteous in creation is gathered. For it shall come to pass at that time that you shall see, and the many that are with you, the long suffering of the Most High, which has been throughout all generations, those who are righteous. And I answered and I said, but behold, O Lord, no one knows the number of those things which have passed, nor yet of those things which are to come. For I know indeed that which has befallen us, but what will happen to our enemies I know not. And when will you visit your works? Chapter 25. And he answered and said unto me, you too shall be preserved till that time, till that sign which the Most High will work for the inhabitants of the earth in the end of days. This therefore shall be the sign. When a stupor shall seize the inhabitants of the earth, and they shall fall into many tribulations, and again, when they shall fall into great torment, it will come to pass when they say in their thoughts by reason of their much tribulation, the Mighty One doth no longer remember the earth. Yes, it will come to pass when they abandon hope that the time will then awake. And I answered and he said, will that tribulation which is to be continue a long time? And will that necessity embrace many years? Chapter 27. And he answered and said unto me, into 12 parts is that time divided, and each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it. In the first part, there shall be the beginning of commotion. In the second part, there shall be slayings of the great ones. And in the third part, the fall of many by death. In the fourth part, the sending of the sword. In the fifth part, famine and the withholding of rain. In the sixth part, earthquakes and terrors. And in the eighth part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the Shedem. And in the ninth part, the fall of fire. In the 10th part, raping and much oppression. In the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity. And in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid. For these parts of that time are reserved and shall be mingled one with another, and minister one to another. For some shall leave out some of their own, and receive in its stead from others. And some complete their own and that of others, so that those may not understand who are upon the earth in those days, that this is the consummation of the times. All right, we're going to revisit that here, but I want to reflect on something and focus on something that was just revealed there. One second. I'm highlighting it. I'm going to look it up. All right. Notice, it says that in the consummation of that time, talking about the tribulation, that it would be broken up into these 12 signs and the 12 experiences. And notice how, I just checked the chat room and For Fun says, what is the Shadim? And that's exactly what I just thought, too. So give me a minute to look it up. See what Wiki pulls up for us. All right, let's read what Shadim is. From the Wiki, it says this. Shadim is the Hebrew word for demons. The word Shadim appears only twice, always plural, in the Tanakh at Psalm 106:37 and Deuteronomy 32, verse 17. It was possibly a loan word from Akkadian in which the word Sidu referred to a protective or benevolent spirit. Both times the term appears in the Tanakh, it deals with child or animal sacrifice to false gods that are called demons. The word may also derive from the Sedim, S-E-D-I-M, or Assyrian guard spirits, as referenced accordingly to lore. Azazel slept with Nama and spawned Assyrian guard spirits known as Sedim. Interesting, huh? For those that don't know, Azazel is to be known as Satan. Nama is the sister of Tubal-Cain were born to the children of Lamech. And Tubal-Cain was the grandson of Lamech, of the line and seed of Cain. And Lamech was also the first polygamist. And if you didn't know, according to the pseudepigraphal and the extra biblical text, that Cain had an incestuous relationship with his blood twin. And so that whole line was born of a schizoid nature. And that was also one of the reasons why he killed his brother Abel, because according to the text, I know that in the Old Testament, it gives reference to Cain and Abel as being fraternal twins. And of course, I completely accept what the story says. But in the pseudepigraphal text, it speaks of Cain and Abel each being born with a twin sister, and that these twin sisters were to be betrothed to the other brother. But Cain wanted to marry his own sister and had lust for her, and that was one of the reasons, along with his denial of there being a judgment and an afterlife, that was also one of the reasons why he killed his brother. So interesting, Shadim. So let's look back at this particular passage, and let's look at the breakdown of these 12, the 12 parts of tribulation, and the way that the Lord says that they would unfold. And then let's decide where we find ourselves. How far are we into this cycle? All right, so chapter 27, again, Apocalypse of Baruch. Into 12 parts is that time divided, and each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it. In the first part there shall be the beginning of commotions. In the second part there shall be slayings of the great ones. In the third part, the fall of many by death. In the fourth part, the sending of the sword. In the fifth part, famine and the withholding of rain. In the sixth part, earthquakes and terrors. In the eighth part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the Shadim, or the demons. Interesting, huh? Because remember we just did that show where we talked about that giant-sized bat that man-sized bat, the 6-foot-tall, blood-sucking bat that was killed by the Peruvian army, that had like a 12 to 15-foot wingspan. Talk about specter. Or what about the Nakash, that reptilian bird that they just found in Mexico? Or the fairy that was, filmed in, little pixie fairy that was filmed in England. Or the troll, this weird-looking pincher-handed troll that was discovered, among others, in Africa. I mean, the weirdness is ongoing. And so that is a sign of where we are. That is one of the signs. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, and if you have not listened to that show, can't even remember what the name of that show was. I think it was a Succubus Incubus show, actually. Yeah, it was, actually. You can go to the front page of fallenangels.tv, and I'll actually go there and change to the featured videos, and you'll see all the videos that I'm talking about. We also spoke about that fallen angel that was discovered in Catalonia, Spain, with his wings severed and the glowing eyes, the men that encountered that particular creature. I mean, the weirdness is ongoing. And according to the pseudepigraphal text, and according to this particular passage, that is going to be part of the experience of the tribulation. And the next part, notice the next part, the fall of fire. We're talking about fire from the heavens, not fire, we're talking the fall of fire. How do you have the fall of fire unless it comes in the form of meteors, comets, asteroids, which are also part of the biblical code associated to the return of Nibiru, or Planet X, and the return of the Anunnaki, or the star beings, the star gods, whatever you want to call them, the loosening of the angels from the river Euphrates. All these things are associated. The return of the feathered serpent, Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl, the Nakash of Genesis chapter 3. All these things are running in tangent. And then notice, all right, we're reading on. 10th part, raping and much oppression. That's number 10. The 11th part, wickedness and unchastity. I mean, my goodness, it seems like we are in the mix of all of this, are we not? The 12th part, notice the 12th part is a mix of all of them together. So, I don't know. How far are we? Seems to me that we are close to the end. You get your opinion on that, people, in the chat room, if you would. Where do you think we are? Now, let me check the chat room again. For Fun says, interesting on the Shadim. It's very, very interesting, yeah. All right. Let's continue on, because we're going to get into some even deeper aspects. All right. Chapter 28. Nevertheless, whoever understands shall then be wise. For the measure and reckoning of that time are 2 parts a week of 7 weeks. Notice that, 2 parts a week of 7 weeks. And I answered and said, it is good for a man to come and behold, but it is better that he should not come lest he fall. But I will say this also, will he who is incorruptible despise those things which are corruptible? and whatever befalls in the case of those things which are corruptible, so that he might look only to those things which are not corruptible. But if, O Lord, those things shall assuredly come to pass which you have foretold to me, so do you show this also unto me, if indeed I have found grace in your sight. Is it in one place or in one of the parts of the earth that those things are come to pass, or will the whole earth experience them? Chapter 29. And he answered and said unto me, whatever will then befall will befall the whole earth. Therefore, all who live will experience them. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those selfsame days in this land. And it shall come to pass when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those parts, that the Messiah shall then begin to be revealed. And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea. Those two great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation shall have kept until that time, and then shall be for food for all that are left. The earth also shall yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches. On each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster produce 1,000 grapes, and each grape produce a core of wine, and those who have hungered shall rejoice. Moreover, also they shall behold marvels every day. For wind shall go forth from before me, to bring every morning the fragrance of aromatic fruits. And at the close of the day, clouds distilling the dew of health. And it shall come to pass at that selfsame time, that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high, and they will eat of it in those years, because these are they who have come to the consummation of time. And it shall come to pass after these things, when the time of the advent of the Messiah is fulfilled, that he shall return in glory. And then all who have fallen asleep in hope of him shall rise again. And it shall come to pass at that time that the treasuries will be opened, in which is preserved the number of the souls of the righteous. And they shall come forth, and a multitude of the souls shall be seen together in one assemblage of one thought. And the first shall rejoice, and the last shall not be grieved. I want to stop here for a second. Notice again the theme of the first will be the last. It's interwoven into all of the text. And so you see how the elect are come for this time. And even those that are of the wicked are also, they have been preserved also for this time. And so the grand battle ensues. What we have here is the culmination, what will be the war of Armageddon. And we're that generation that's going to witness it. And so, it says, again, then all who have fallen asleep in hope of him shall rise again. And it shall come to pass at that time that the treasuries will be opened, in which is preserved the number of the souls of the righteous. And they shall come forth, and a multitude of souls shall be seen together, in one assemblage of one thought, and the first shall rejoice, the last shall not be grieved. For they know that the time has come of which it is said that it is the consummation of the time. But the souls of the wicked, when they behold all these things, shall then waste away the more. For they shall know that their torment has come, and their perdition has arrived. That's the sign of Revelation 12, too. That sign of the woman clothed in the sun, the moon beneath her feet, the crown of 12 stars with the child in her womb, that is also a sign to Satan that his time is up. And that's also woe unto those that live upon the earth. The devil comes to you knowing that his time is short, filled with great wrath, knowing that his time is short. It's all coming, people. Chapter 31. And it came to pass after these things that I went to the people and said unto them, Assemble unto me all you elders, and I will speak words unto them. And they all assembled in the valley of Kidron. All right, we're going to skip a little bit forward. We're going to go to another very relevant passage. I hope you enjoyed that one. It was filled with meat. All right. And we're going to have just enough time to cover this too. We're skipping to chapter 39, the Apocalypse of Baruch. And this is going to be the interpretation of a vision that Baruch had after another 7 days of fasting. After he had received that vision, which I had just read to you of the coming judgment and the apocalypse of what would be, for the fig tree generation, which is us. So, chapter 39. And he answered and said unto me, Baruch, this is the interpretation of the vision which you have seen. As you have seen the great forest, which lofty and rugged mountains surrounded, this is the word. Behold, the days come, and this kingdom will be destroyed, which once destroyed Zion, and it will be subjected to that which comes after it. Moreover, that also again after a time will be destroyed, and another, a third, will arise. I want to stop here for just a second. This particular passage is going to associate it to the revelation that Daniel was given, the vision of the statue with the head of gold, the broad shoulders of silver, the torso of bronze that descended out. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be speaking about the various empires that would ascend to power, and then it will also talk about what is referenced as the eagle, which will be the last empire, the reestablished Roman Empire, the new world order that comes to power in that time and that day. All right, speaking on. A third will arise, and that also will have dominion for its time and will be destroyed. And after these things, a fourth kingdom will arise, whose power will be harsh and evil far beyond those which were before it. And it will rule many times as the forest on the plain. And it will hold fast for times and will exalt itself more than the cedars of Lebanon. And by it the truth will be hidden. And all those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it, as evil beasts flee and creep into the forest. And it will come to pass when the time of its consummation, that it should fall, has approached, then the principate of my Messiah will be revealed, which is like the fountain and the vine. And when it is revealed, it will root out the multitude of its hosts, And as touching that which you have seen, the lofty cedar which was left of that forest, and the fact that the vine spoke those words with which you did hear, this is the word. The last leader of that time will be left alive, when the multitude of his hosts will be put to the sword. And he will be bound, and they will take him up to Mount Zion. And my Messiah will convict him of all his impieties, and will gather and set before him all the works of his hosts. And afterwards he will put him to death, and protect the rest of my people, which shall be found in the place which I have chosen. And as his principate will stand forever, until the world of corruption is at an end, and until the times aforesaid are fulfilled. This is your vision, and this is its interpretation. So this is speaking of the kingdom, the empire, and its fall. Notice that one particular passage. I think this is very relevant to where we are. Says, and it will come to pass, when the time of its consummation, that it should fall has approached, then the principate of my Messiah will be revealed, which is like the fountain in the vine, which is revealed, will root out the multitude of its hosts. And it's also speaking about last leader. And this last leader is going to be the devil incarnate. And he's going to be killed in the sight of his host, as revealed in Isaiah chapter 14 and Ezekiel chapter 28, which speak about Satan taking the form of a man, having the leader and rulership of man during this particular time, and how he would die the death of a man, that the Lord would bring a fire, burn him from inside out in sight of kings and queens, those that are of his bloodline. Chapter 41. And I answered and said, for whom and for how many shall these things be? Or who will be worthy to live at that time? For I will speak before you everything that I think, and I will ask you regarding those things which I meditate. For lo, I see many of your people who have withdrawn from your covenant, and cast from them the yoke of your law. But others again I have seen who have forsaken their vanity, and fled for refuge beneath your wings. What therefore will be to them? Or how will the last time receive them? Or perhaps the time of these will assuredly be weighed, and as the beam inclines, will they be judged accordingly? Chapter 42. And he answered, and he said unto me, these things also will I show unto you. As for what you did say, to whom will these things be, and how many will they be? To those who have believed there shall be the good which was spoken of aforetime. And to those who despise there shall be the contrary of these things. And as for what you did say regarding those who have drawn near and those who have withdrawn, this in the word, as for who were before subject and afterwards withdrew and mingled themselves with the seed of mingled peoples, the time of these was the former, and was accounted as something exalted. And as for those who before knew not, but afterwards knew life, and mingled only with the seed of the people which hath separated itself, the time of these is the latter, and is accounted as something exalted. And time shall succeed to time, and season to season, and one shall receive from another. And then with a view to the consummation shall everything be compared, according to the measure of the times and the hours of the seasons. For corruption shall take those that belong to it, and life those that belong to it. And the dust shall be called. There shall be said to it, give back that which is not yours, and raise up all that you have kept until its time. All right, we're going to skip forward to another part. This will be chapter 48. It's a prayer of Baruch. Give me just a minute. All right. We're going to skip to verse 29. And this has to do also with the end of days, the tribulation, according to the Apocalypse of Baruch. In between this particular verse and that which I just read from, Baruch is given a vision of his death, and he's told by the Father that he's going to be taken and he's going to ascend up into the heavens. And so he's told to prepare his children and to prepare his visions and his teaching for publication so that they should have them for later generations. Says this, and it shall come to pass in those days that all the inhabitants of the earth shall be moved one against another, because they know not that my judgment has drawn nigh. For they shall not be found many wise at that time, and the intelligent shall be but a few. Moreover, even those who know shall most of all be silent, and there shall be many rumors and tidings, not a few. And the doing of phantasms shall be manifest, and promises, not a few, be recounted. Some of them shall prove idle, and some of them shall be confirmed. And honor shall be turned into shame, strength humiliated into contempt, and probity destroyed. Beauty shall become ugliness. And many shall say to man at that time, where hath the multitude of intelligence hidden itself? And whither hath the multitude of wisdom removed itself? And whilst they are meditating these things, then envy shall arise in those who had not thought aught of themselves, and passion shall seize him that is peaceful. Many shall be stirred up in anger to injure many, and they shall rouse up armies in order to shed blood. And in the end they shall perish together with them. And it shall come to pass at the selfsame time that a change of time shall manifestly appeal to every man, because in all those times they polluted themselves, and they practiced oppression, and walked every man in his own work, and remembered not the law of the Mighty One. Therefore a fire shall consume their thoughts, and in flames shall the meditations of their reins be tried. For the judge shall come, and will not tarry, because each of the inhabitants of the earth knew when he was transgressing. But my law they knew not by reason of their pride. But many shall then assuredly weep, yea, over the living more than over the dead. And I answered and said, O Adam, what have you done to all those who are born from you? And what will be said to the first Eve who hearkened to the serpent? For all this multitude are going to corruption, nor is there any numbering of those whom the fire devours. I'm going to stop there for a second. Revisit just a couple things here. Because how relevant to our times, you know? It says, for there shall not be found many wise at that time, and the intelligent shall be but a few. Moreover, even those who know shall most of all be silent. And there shall be many rumors and tidings, not a few. And, this is important, and the doing of phantasms shall be manifest. I'm going to stop there. Again, this is the same thing as the manifestation of the Shedem or the demons. It says here, the doings of phantasms shall be manifest. Meaning that, you know, they have all these ghost stories and all that now. But that demonic activity, you know, all that is coming to play again in this, the end of days. All right. We're skipping just a little bit. We're going to go to chapter 49. And this is going to be speaking about the resurrection and the destinies of the righteous and the wicked, which is, you know, basically the theme of the book is, you know, because Baruch did not believe that he felt like those that were evil, you know, got a hand up in this world. And so the Lord is verifying to him that, no, it's not set up that way, that the righteous will inherit rest and eternal life. Chapter 49, the Apocalypse of Baruch. Nevertheless, I will again to ask from you, O mighty one, yea, I will ask made all things. In what shape will those live who live in your day? Or how will the splendor of those who are after that time continue? Will they then resume this form of the present and put on these entrammeling members, which are now involved in evils, and which evils are consummated? Or will you perchance change these things which have been in the world, as also the world? He's talking about our flesh bodies here, our flesh form. And he answered and said unto me, hear, Baruch, this word, and write in the remembrance of your heart, and all that you shall learn. For the earth shall then assuredly restore the dead, which it now receives in order to preserve them. It shall make no change in their form, but as it has received, so shall it restore them. And as I delivered them unto it, sorry. My cat jumped on the keyboard. I apologize. Gotta find my place. Okay. Yeah, here I am. I apologize. I have a new little kitten, and he's likes to be on the keyboard for some reason. All right. Hear, Baruch, this word, and write in the remembrance of your heart all that you shall learn. For the earth shall then assuredly restore the dead which it now receives in order to preserve them. I shall make no change in their form, but as it has received them shall it restore them. And as I deliver them unto it, so also shall it raise them. For then it will be necessary to show the living that the dead have come to life again, and that those who had departed have returned again. And it shall come to pass, when they have severally recognized those whom they now know, then judgment shall grow strong, and those things which before were spoken of shall come. And it shall come to pass, when the appointed day has gone by, that then shall the aspect of those who are condemned be afterwards changed, and all the glories of those who are justified. For the aspect of those who now act wickedly shall become worse than it is, as they shall suffer torment. Also, as for the glory of those who have now been justified in my law, who have had understanding in their life, who have planted in their heart the root of wisdom, then their splendor shall be glorified in changes, and the form of their face shall be turned into the light of their beauty, that they may be able to acquire and receive the world which does not die, which is then promised to them. For over this, above all, shall those who come then lament, that they rejected my law, and stopped their ears that they might not hear wisdom, or receive understanding. When therefore they see those over whom they are now exalted, but who shall then be exalted and glorified more than they shall respectfully be transformed. The latter into the splendor of angels. There you go. Remember I told you, first estate, return to our angelic bright natures. They shall respectively be transformed, the latter into the splendor of angels, and the former shall yet more waste away, in wonder at the visions and at the beholding of the forms. For they shall first behold and afterward depart to be tormented. So, let's highlight that again. All right. This is chapter 51, verse 5. Chapter 51, verse 5, it says, when therefore they see those of whom they are now exalted, but who shall then be exalted and glorified more than they shall respectively be transformed. The latter into the splendor of angels, that's us, and the former, those, the rebel angels, the fallen angels, those that left their first estate and that chose not to go back or to rebel. The former shall yet more waste away in wonder at the visions and in the beholding of the forms, for they shall first behold and afterwards depart to be tormented. But those who have been saved by their works, and to whom the law has been now a hope, and understanding and expectation and wisdom a confidence, shall wonders appear in their time. For they shall behold the world which is now invisible to them. And they shall behold the time which is now hidden from them. And time shall no longer age them. For in the height of that world shall they dwell. And they shall be made like unto angels. There you go again. For those that, keep doubting me on all this. They shall be made like unto angels, and be made equal to the stars. And they shall be changed into every form they desire, from beauty into loveliness, and from light into the splendor of glory. Okay? So, we're returning back to our natural state, to the state that we were created in our first world age lives, when the Father and the Son created us and knew us. We're going back to that form of being, that angelic, bright-natured, immortal state of being. That's what we're returning to. Hopefully, that's what we pray, and I pray every day that we be counted among the elect so that we can return to our first estate. Oh, goodness, we're running out of time. Let me read just a little bit more. I want to read chapter 51, verse 12 says this. Moreover, there shall then be excellency in the righteous, surpassing that in the angels. For the first shall receive the last, those whom they were expecting, and the last those of whom they used to hear that they had passed. There it is, the theme. The first shall be the last. Again. And surpassing that in the angels, talking about the fallen ones. Because we're going to take over their first estate. Those positions they abandoned, that they no longer want part of. All right, this is going to be the final passage that I can read. I didn't even get through half the book. I'll do another show, a follow-up on this, because there's a whole nother vision and revelation of the coming of the Messiah tied to the end times revelation, and I didn't even get to touch on any of that. So I'll do a follow-up. Quickly, going to chapter 56, verse 5. We'll go ahead and begin the first part of this vision. And as you did previously see on the summit of the cloud black waters which descended previously on the earth, this is the transgression wherein with Adam the first man transgressed. For since when he transgressed, untimely death came into being. Grief was named, and anguish was prepared, and pain was created. And trouble consummated, and disease began to be established. And Sheol kept demanding that it should be renewed in blood. And the begetting of children was brought about, and the passion of parents produced, and the greatness of humanity was humiliated, and goodness languished. Why? Why was that? Because we were reduced from our angelic natures to now having to incarnate and be born into a fallen state of being in a fallen world where we were under the rule of devils and demons bent on murdering, oppressing, and keeping us as a slave race. And that's why the Lord came in to free us, to show us the way to truth and the life and to eternal salvation, and that He was the way out of all of this evil. And He was the way to ascend back to our first estate. He was the example. So that's why it's important to understand the story. That's why it's important for you to come to remembrance. realize who you are. All right, real quick update. Jazz asked any link. No, I'm just basically put in a link earlier, Jazz, to the book that I read from, the Apocalypse of Baruch, which you can just search it in Google. Quick update on my book, Sons of God, Who We Are While We're Here. I'm still autographing and sending and shipping those out. There will be another shipment sent out on Monday for those that are interested in getting and purchasing the book. You can email me, Zen Garcia, ZenGarcia 2010 @gmail.com. And I'm also bundling my 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th books together. For those that are interested in a package deal, I am making those available for $75 for the 4, and I'm autographing all of them as well. So, and also want to just let everybody know the official release date from Tate Publishing will be the 29th of January, and it will be available to all the different web portals and should be found also in the various bookstores, physically available in the various bookstores across the country. So, praise God for that. I just give thanks. Glory to the Father and the Son for the servant. I pray that all of you awaken to who you are, why you're here, what all this is about. And please do share feedback with me when you can. I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate the fellowship. And with that, we're going to end it. God bless all. May the Father continue to watch over and keep you all safe. And you.
bound for